Hey guys, in today's video, I bring you a chilling story. Let's meet Silas Warwick, a millionaire businessman who had a near-death experience and saw something that changed his life forever. The shocking sight of millionaires burning in hell. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss this impressive revelation. Get ready for this transformative journey. My name is Silas Warwick, and before I tell you what happened to me that winter afternoon in Aspen, I need you to understand who I was. I'm a successful businessman, the kind you've probably seen in business magazines or at important corporate events. I built my life around power and money, turning every opportunity into more zeros in my bank account. Aspen, Colorado, is my home. No coincidence, as it is one of the most unique places in the United States. Here, among the mansions and snowy mountains, I built my empire. Today I'm sitting in my office, looking out the window at the majestic snow-capped mountains, trying to find the right words to describe something that has completely changed my perspective on life. How to explain the inexplicable? How can we translate into words an experience that transcends our material reality? Still, I feel like I need to share this story, because what I experienced wasn't just a hallucination or a dream. It was something much deeper and more meaningful. Before this event, I was the typical entrepreneur obsessed with success. My day started before sunrise and ended long after sunset. Meetings, negotiations, contracts. This was my world. He had a wonderful wife, Amelia, but he rarely dedicated enough time to her. Our relationship, like every other aspect of my life, was run like a business, efficient, practical, but without real emotional depth. I remember how I used to brag about my success, how every deal I closed was proof of my superiority. I lived in a bubble of self-sufficiency, convinced that money and power were the only metrics that mattered in life. My friends, they were more strategic connections than true friendships. My family, a complement to my success, like decorative pieces in a well-ordered display case. It's weird talking about who I was because it feels like I'm describing someone else. But it's important that you understand this context, because only then can you understand the true impact of what happened to me that day on the ski slopes. That Silas Warwick, the obsessive and materialistic man, needed a lesson that would come in the most unexpected and transformative way possible. The day started like any other winter day in Aspen. The sky was a crystal blue, and freshly fallen snow covered the ski slopes like an immaculate carpet. I had decided to enjoy a few hours of skiing before an important afternoon video conference. It was an activity that I did more for status than for pleasure. After all successful business people in Aspen had to be excellent skiers, right? I'm in line for the cable car, impatient as ever, checking emails on my phone while I wait for my turn. The air is cold and sharp, and I can see my breath forming little clouds in front of my face. People talk animatedly around me, but I barely notice them, focused on responding to important messages, or at least what I considered important at the time. It is at that moment that everything starts to change. I feel a strong, unexpected push. Someone in line lost their balance and fell on me. In a matter of seconds, I'm on the ground, and a sharp pain shoots through my left hand. My thumb is in a strange position, and the pain is intense. The people around me seem worried, but all I can think about is the meeting I have to cancel and the precious time I'm wasting. Rescue personnel on the slopes arrive quickly. They examine my hand and conclude that I need to go to the hospital immediately. My thumb is dislocated and possibly fractured. I try to argue that it's not necessary, that I can sort it out later, but the pain is getting worse and worse. And for the first time in a long time, I'm forced to admit that I have no control over the situation. During the ride to the hospital, I keep trying to make calls with my good hand, rearranging my schedule, delegating tasks. The medical team looks at me with a mixture of concern and irritation, but I don't care. At that moment, I still have no idea that this little accident will be the portal to an experience that will completely change my worldview. The hospital is busy, but I get seen quickly. One of the perks of living in an upscale city like Aspen. The doctor examines my thumb and confirms, I will need minor surgery to correct the dislocation. He explains to me that it will be a simple procedure, under local anesthesia, and that in a few hours I will be released. I agree, still irritated by the inconvenience, without imagining that I am about to experience something that transcends any earthly experience. I'm lying on the operating table, watching the overhead fluorescent lights as the medical team prepares for the procedure. The environment is cold and aseptic, filled only by the sound of surgical instruments being organized and the low murmur of conversations between professionals. Local anesthesia has already been applied, and my thumb is completely numb. A nurse is adjusting the tourniquet on my arm, a routine procedure to control bleeding during surgery. I notice that she seems a little nervous. Her hands are shaking slightly as she manipulates the equipment. Under normal circumstances, I would have made some acid comment about your competence, but the anesthesia is already making me slightly drowsy. Suddenly, something is wrong, very wrong. I feel a strange pressure in my chest, as if a huge weight is being placed on me. My breathing starts to get labored, and a high-pitched ringing fills my ears. I try to speak, but my voice won't come out. Panic begins to take over me as I realize I'm losing control of my body. The monitors start beeping frantically. I see the medical team spring into action immediately, their voices now loud and urgent. Our pressure dropping. He's going into cardiac arrest. We need help here. The words reach my ears as if they were coming from far away, through an increasingly long and dark tunnel. The fear I feel right now is unlike anything I have ever experienced. It's not the fear of losing an important deal or seeing shares plummet on the stock market. It is a primal, visceral fear, the fear of one's own approaching death. I try to fight the darkness that begins to envelop me, but it's like swimming against a current that's too powerful. Now I can see the doctors applying the defibrillator to my chest. It's a surreal feeling, because somehow I'm watching it all happen from above. I see my own body on the operating table, pale and still, as the medical team works frantically to bring me back. The nurse who adjusted the tourniquet is crying in the corner of the room, being comforted by a colleague. The whole scene looks like a slow-motion movie. The doctors, voices, the sound of the equipment, the nurses crying. Everything becomes more and more distant, as if I were being pulled away from that reality. I no longer feel fear or panic, just a strange feeling of detachment, as if the ties that held me to that body on the operating table were unraveling one by one. It's at that moment that I realize I'm dying, or maybe he's already dead. Reality as I knew it is dissolving, and I am about to enter a completely different dimension of existence. I float above the operating room, observing the scene below me with surreal detachment. It's like watching a movie where I'm simultaneously the protagonist and the spectator. The hospital roof appears to no longer exist. I can see through it as if it were made of glass. The feeling is indescribable. I no longer feel my body. There is no pain. There is no heaviness. There are no physical limitations. A soft light begins to form beside me, not a blinding or directed light, but a luminous presence that seems to emanate from all directions at once. Within this light, I perceive a figure that I cannot clearly define. It has no face or defined form, but its presence is unmistakable and conveys a sense of wisdom and strength that transcends any earthly experience I have ever had. Communication with this presence does not happen through words. It's as if our thoughts merge, as if we can share ideas and feelings in a way that goes beyond language. I feel like this entity has something important to show me, something I need to deeply understand. As this happens, I begin to notice that my consciousness is expanding in ways I never imagined possible. All the worries that once seemed so important, the meetings, the contracts, the negotiations, now seem insignificant, like grains of sand on an endless beach. It's as if, for the first time, I can see the true dimension of existence. Time seems to no longer exist as we know it. I can't tell if it's been seconds or hours since I left my body. Each moment expands infinitely, filled with a clarity and understanding beyond my ability to explain in earthly words. The presence at my side communicates, without words, that I have an important journey ahead of me. I feel like I'm about to receive a revelation, a knowledge that will fundamentally change my understanding of life and death, of the purpose of existence. Below me, I see the medical team continuing to try to revive me. His actions seem to happen in slow motion, each movement suspended in time like a slowly unfolding photograph. I feel deep compassion for them, for their desperation in trying to save my life, but at the same time I feel completely detached from that scene. Then, without warning, the luminous presence begins to guide me away from the operating room. There is no physical movement as we know it. It is more as if the reality around us is transforming, dissolving into something completely different. I feel like I'm about to witness something few have the opportunity to see, something that will forever change my understanding of life and death. The transformation is abrupt and shocking. The aseptic and cold environment of the hospital disappears completely, and I find myself immersed in a scenario that makes my entire being shiver. The heat is the first thing I notice. Not a natural heat, but something oppressive and suffocating, as if every particle of the air is on fire. Before me stretches a panorama of indescribable horror. I'm floating above what I can only describe as hell, but not the hell of medieval paintings or religious stories. It's something much more real and terrifying. The scene is vast and bleak, filled with dancing shadows and a red-orange glow that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The souls, because that is what they are, move beneath me in a macabre dance of eternal suffering. Thousands, perhaps millions of them, each trapped in their own private torment. The most disturbing thing is that I start to recognize faces, people I have known, that I have admired, that I have envied throughout my life. I see famous tycoons, CEOs of large corporations, powerful figures who have built empires at the expense of others. A man I recognize as an old business mentor of mine stands there, his face contorted into an expression of eternal agony. He had taught me that business is businessing, and that feelings have no place in the corporate world. Now I see him desperately trying to achieve something that is always out of his reach, eternally reliving the frustration of never achieving enough. The horror of the scene intensifies when I realize that many of these souls are trapped in cycles that reflect their obsessions in life. I see people desperately trying to grab riches that turn into ashes in their hands, others eternally running after unreachable goals, some sinking into piles of papers and contracts that never end. The scariest thing is that I can feel your thoughts, your emotions. The regret is overwhelming, not a superficial regret, but a deep, painful realization of missed opportunities to love, to help, to make a difference in the lives of others. Every soul carries the crushing weight of the awareness of their selfish and materialistic choices. The presence at my side allows me to fully absorb this vision. There is no judgment in your energy, just the intention to make me understand. And I understand with terrifying clarity that this could be my destiny. Every decision I made prioritizing profit over humanity, every time I ignored the suffering of others in the name of success, every moment I chose power over love, all of these moments led me closer to this place. Heat and despair seem to penetrate every fiber of my being. Even though I'm not in a physical body, I can feel the weight of the atmosphere of this place, the density of suffering that permeates everything. It is as if the very air is thick with the tears and wails of countless repentant souls. In a particularly impactful moment, I see a group of souls I recognize from the corporate world, people I used to admire for their relentless determination in business. Now I can see the true cost of their ruthlessness. They are trapped in an eternal cycle of failed negotiations, each deal crumbling in their hands like sand, each victory turning into defeat. The emptiness in their eyes reflects the emptiness they cultivated in life, when they exchanged genuine human connections for numbers on spreadsheets. The transition is as sudden as the first. In an instant, the suffocating heat and screams of despair disappear, and I find myself transported to a completely different place. It's a vast, serene field, bathed in soft light that seems to come from all directions. The colors here are more vibrant than anything I've seen on Earth, flowers of hues impossible to describe with our limited earthly palate. The air here has a different quality. Every breath, even without a physical body, seems to fill me with pure, vital energy. It is as if every molecule in the air carries love and peace in its essence. The grass beneath my consciousness, I cannot call it feet for I have no physical form, seems to vibrate with a life of its own, and each breeze brings with it fragments of heavenly melodies. The presence that accompanies me is still by my side, but its energy is now different. There is no longer the urgency to show me the consequences of materialism. Now she exudes a serenity that envelops me like a warm hug. For the first time since leaving my body, I feel completely at peace. In this field, time seems to not exist. There is no rush. There is no agenda. There are no goals to meet or deadlines to respect. Each moment unfolds naturally into the next, like the petals of a flower opening to the sun. It's a feeling of freedom I've never experienced in my life, the freedom to simply be, without expectations or pressure. The trees surrounding the field are unlike anything I've ever seen. Their trunks seem to emit a soft light, and their leaves dance in a breeze that carries whispers of ancient wisdom. Every movement of the leaves seems to tell a story. Every ripple of the grass seems to carry a lesson about the true nature of existence. I realize this place isn't just a pretty setting. It's a state of being. Each element here reflects a profound truth about life and the purpose of existence. Flowers do not compete with each other for space or light. Trees don't fight for resources. Everything exists in perfect harmony, in a balance that we, in our obsession with growth and accumulation, forget is possible. It is at this moment that I truly understand the contrast with the previous vision. That place of torment was the natural result of lives lived in disharmony with this fundamental truth. The truth that we are all part of something greater, interconnected in a cosmic fabric of love and purpose. As I absorb the serenity of the countryside, a subtle transformation begins to take place. A white cloud, unlike any atmospheric formation I've ever seen, begins to materialize in front of me. It is no ordinary cloud. Its surface appears alive, pulsing with an energy of its own, and its whiteness is so pure that it seems to contain all the colors of the universe at once. As the cloud fully forms, I realize that it isn't simply floating in the air. It appears to be some sort of portal or screen. Its surface begins to gently undulate, like the surface of a lake touched by a gentle breeze. And then, I begin to see images forming on its surface. The first image that appears is of myself as a child. I see myself at 5 years old, playing in the backyard of our old house. The moment is crystal clear in every detail, the genuine smile on my face, the pure joy I felt simply existing. I observe how that child had not yet been touched by unbridled ambition, how his heart was still open to the simple wonders of life. The images continue to flow, each one clearer than the last. I see myself as a teenager, already showing the first signs of my future obsession with success. I observe how my smile becomes more restrained, how my eyes lose that sparkle of innocence, as I begin to see the world through the lens of competition and materialism. The cloud doesn't just show me events, it allows me to feel each moment again, but now with an expanded perspective. I can feel the pain I caused others in my quest for power. I can see the moments when I chose to ignore the emotional needs of those close to me in favor of yet another professional achievement. I see specific moments with Amelia, moments when she needed me and I was too busy with work to notice. The cloud shows me not only their expressions of disappointment, but allows me to feel the depth of their loneliness, the pain of being constantly put on the back burner to my professional goals. Each scene is presented with stunning clarity, as if it were happening right now. There is no judgment in the images, just the pure, unfiltered truth of my choices and their consequences. The presence at my side remains silent, allowing me to absorb each moment, each revelation, each painful but necessary understanding. As the images continue to flow across the surface of the white cloud, I begin to notice patterns in my life that I have never noticed before. Every decision, every choice I made with only material gain in mind created ripples of consequences that affected not only my life, but the lives of countless other people. I see the moment when I decided to close a factory to increase the company's profits. At the time, it was just a number on a spreadsheet, 300 employees laid off to improve the financial statement. Now, the cloud shows me each of these employees, families destroyed, dreams interrupted, lives completely changed by a decision I made without thinking twice. I can feel your desperation, your sense of betrayal, the crushing weight of uncertainty about your future. The cloud also shows me moments of kindness I ignored, opportunities to make a difference I missed. I see the times when I turned my back on people who needed help, times when I could have used my power and influence to bring about positive change, but I chose not to get involved. Each of these omissions now feels like an open wound on my conscience. With painful clarity, I realize how I built walls around myself, how I isolated myself emotionally from people, always with the excuse that it was necessary to stay focused on the business. I see the countless times I used people as stepping stones to my success, how I manipulated situations to my benefit without considering the impact on others. The presence at my side seems to amplify each revelation, each understanding. There is no condemnation in his energy, just a deep desire for me to truly understand. And I understand with a clarity I've never had in my life that every moment of greed, every act of selfishness, every choice based solely on self-benefit, created a web of suffering that extended far beyond myself. But the cloud also shows me something else. It shows the unfulfilled potential, the good I can still do, the lives I can touch in a positive way. I see alternative versions of myself, versions where I choose love over power, compassion over greed, connection over isolation. These visions are not just lost possibilities, they are a glimpse of what I can still become. Amidst the revelations provided by the white cloud, something begins to change. The robust and strong figure that emerges from the fog is different from the presence that has accompanied me until now. Your energy is more direct, more physical in some way. When she extends her arm towards me, I feel an irresistible force pulling me. It's not your time yet. The figure communicates, not with words, but with a certainty that resonates through my entire being. It's a strange feeling. Part of me wants to stay, wants to keep exploring these newfound truths, but the strength of the calling is unmistakable. The transition back is violent and disorienting. It's like being sucked into a tunnel of light and energy, all feelings of peace and understanding being replaced by a whirlwind of physical sensations. The pain returns, not just the pain in my thumb, but every little discomfort in the physical body that I had forgotten about during my journey. The first sound I hear is the steady beeping of the heart monitor, followed by the excited voices of the medical team. My lungs burn as I take my first breath, a deep, desperate gasp for air. The fluorescent light in the operating room seems absurdly artificial after the ethereal lights I've experienced. I open my eyes and see shocked faces around me. The medical team doesn't seem to believe what they're seeing. I hear someone say that I had no vital signs for 20 minutes, long enough for them to practically give up trying to revive me. The nurse who adjusted the tourniquet is crying, but now they are tears of relief. I try to speak, but my throat is dry and sore. My entire body feels heavy, as if I'm carrying an immense burden. It's hard to believe that just a few moments ago, I was floating in a state of pure consciousness, free from physical limitations. Readapting to your body is an uncomfortable process. Every sensation seems amplified. Every movement requires conscious effort. Lying on the hospital gurney, still connected to various monitors and equipment, I try to process everything that happened. The experience is vivid in my mind, every detail crystal clear as if it happened seconds ago, which, technically, is true, even though it feels like I lived an eternity in those 20 minutes. Doctors ask questions, check my vitals, test my answers. I can tell they are amazed at my apparently complete recovery. From a medical point of view, someone who was without vital signs for so long should have some type of neurological sequelae, but my mind is clearer than ever. Amelia arrives at the hospital. Someone must have called her during the emergency. When she enters the room, I see her with completely new eyes. Every line of worry on his face tells a story of times when I wasn't there, of times when I prioritized work over our relationship. The urge to hug her, to tell her I understand now, is almost physical in its intensity. The doctors want to do more tests. They want to understand how I survived without damage after being in cardiac arrest for so long. I agree with your procedures, but my mind is elsewhere. I'm thinking about all the changes I need to make, all the people I need to reconnect with, all the things I need to fix in my life. The peace I felt in that heavenly field still echoes somewhere inside me, like a physical reminder of a state of being that I now know is possible. The contrast with the hustle and bustle of the hospital, with the beeping machines and the comings and goings of the medical team, could not be greater. Still, I feel an inner calm that I've never experienced before. I observe the movement around me with curious detachment. The worries that would once dominate my thoughts, unanswered emails, missed meetings, interrupted business deals, seem trivial now. Not that they have completely lost their importance, but they now occupy a very different place on my scale of priorities. If you like this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.